Yeah, I don't really, ugh. It's been so long. This feels very cyclical because you were also my first guest when I was like starting it up at
Hmm.
first. So yeah, this feels real cyclical. Um, okay, well, hey everyone, and welcome to the Black Spirituality Podcast. My name is Jordan Castillo. I'm your host, and today we'll be talking to Brett Tyler. Woo! Yeah.
Greetings.
Okay, so I just wanted to ask you, I know what we're going to talk about today, but I just wanted to ask
Okay.
you about your spiritual background, like your upbringing and that.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. So I grew up in Baptist churches from like the age of 3 or 4 all the way to like 20 plus. Grew up very heavily involved in the church. Both of my parents were heavily involved with church. My father actually became the licensed and ordained minister in early elementary, late elementary school for me. But then both my father's father and my mother's stepfather are also pastors. Yes, definitely have a lot of heavy Christianity influences in my upbringing.
Hmm. Yeah.
Then probably as I got more into adulthood, was introduced to traditional African religions, whether that be like the Orishas and Ifa, or whether that just be ancient Kemetic religion, where they're talking same concepts as Christianity, but everything has different names, you
And how did that come about? How did you start learning about African traditional religions? And
So funny enough, from studying like African revolution, because in our community, spirituality and revolution are never too far behind each other. They're very deeply intertwined. So my father was actually, before he was a Christian, was a member of the Nation of Islam.
was
And
he?
so he was, yeah,
Oh
he
my gosh, I
was.
didn't know that.
Right. Go figure. Go figure. But and so in that started when I started talking to my older brother a lot more about that, that gave me interest more into the Nation of Islam, and then also into the different sectors that broke off from the Nation of Islam. And when we
Hmm.
start talking about your five percenters, right?
And
And so,
historically, sorry, I just want to make
no,
sure
go
that I
ahead.
got this right. Historically, Nation of Islam is an African American religion that's like a branch off of Islam, right?
Very specific to the African American community.
Okay.
Mhm. There is a yeah, you're not seeing too many black people that are NOI
Or
and
what?
NOI, Nation of Islam.
Oh, okay.
Hmm.
Sorry.
And for very good reason, because I mean, just if you've ever heard Minister Farrakhan speak, you understand why it's not attracting too many people that aren't black,
I honestly thought that you said
which I'm
Menace.
for.
I thought you said Menace Farrakhan, and I was like, yeah, I guess you're absolutely right. Farrakhan is a menace. Um,
I have obviously
I
negative
have mixed
opinions about
feelings.
things that, yeah, I was about to say, but I also have a lot of positive opinions and positive things to say about him.
Yeah. Oh, that's why I had that on my lap of
Definitely
questions earlier.
polarizing. But yes, so that led, right? So I started learning about five percenters. And
Hmm.
then I started hearing about like African traditional
I'm sorry.
religions and
Can we just rewind a little bit? Five percenters.
yes,
What are, because you said it the
nation
first
of five
time
percenters. Yep.
and I thought
So
the 1%, and I was, anyway, sorry, go ahead.
five percenters, or the Nation of Gods and Earths, is a sector of the Nation of Islam
Hmm.
started by Clarence 13X in New York. Essentially, he went and got the least served, or rather, or most underserved, because I know that's a popular term these days. Oh, we work in the most underserved communities. But Clarence 13X really went and did that throughout the boroughs and was working with people essentially the same way like these nonviolent programs would. to where he's going to people who are at risk, getting around their family, but instead of giving them the state-ran curriculum against violence and against anger management, he was giving them the teachings of the Nation of Islam. And then went even a step further, and they ended up developing their own teachings.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll just stop there because that's a whole long tangent. Where I was really just trying to get you to how I ended up getting introduced to living in Oakland, talking
I
to
know that
different
you
older
know
folks.
the history of like the line, so I do. Your knowledge is valuable, and I would like to hear it.
Right, definitely, and I understand here, and will take time to explain anything that needs explanation.
No, you can keep
But
talking about Oakland. Sorry.
right, well, so that was it. Essentially, I started finding out about how countries like Colombia and Brazil have just as big, if not larger, Black populations in the US, right? And then learning that made me curious as to, well, what do people do there? Like, how does African tradition look in their culture?
Yeah.
And I kept seeing these things pop up, similar things pop up. It made me want to research, started to research, and realized the connection between Ifa, Santeria, Voodoo. Like, when you're talking about, same way how I was getting at earlier, where a lot of African traditional religion uses the Trinity or even like the virgin birth, you start seeing in Santeria and Voodoo and Ifa, hearing some of the same names for these orishas pop up again and again. And it's like, wait, okay, that's spelled a little differently, but they talking about the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, like, well, let me not get to lying. Like, I know what I'm talking about.
You can
but
lie.
I'm not.
Nobody knows.
But like Shango, right? But he's also like not pronounced like that, and like other
right. Yeah,
other
there's like
African
3 or 4 different spellings.
Yeah, because I remember like seeing Oshun, the group, like they had a song called Shango, except it was like S, like an accent on the A, something like that. And I remember seeing it as like SH. And anyway, yeah.
And then the CH as well.
I didn't even know about that one. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so extensive background in spirituality is really what we're getting at with you.
Extensive dabbling in traditional religions.
But
I
even
think people's connection to spirituality is innate.
Yeah, okay. But even
that's the only reason I said that like that, because it's like
even in Christianity, though, you read the whole Bible, so that's why I'm saying, like, just
this is true.
Yeah.
I mean, part of my own character makeup is that when I learn something, I like to dive deep into it and really learn it. So if I'm talking about something that's my belief or something that I believe or believed for multiple years, I like to sound at least a little bit informed about it.
Yeah, that makes sense. A lot of people can take notes. I'm just saying. So from there, though, I'd like to transition into what we're actually talking about today, which is Christianity, and how a lot of the things like African traditional religion, magic, astrology have all been demonized in Christianity, when traditionally those are things that Black people have practiced, and we can see instances of that in the Bible.
Definitely.
So I think that this is a good point to pivot into. I know you've done extensive research, so where did you find, like, what made you realize the disconnect?
I think the more obvious things are where we start to see the disconnect when we look at it, right? Because if you just think about the fact that so Christianity and Christian people are pretty like anti ritual, right?
Okay.
And
Are they, though?
no,
Because
your response is perfect, because it's like we're anti-rituals, but we literally drink the blood and eat the body of our Savior
And that's what I'm
for
saying.
communion.
And
And
even
so
baptism could be looked at
there
as
you
a
go. It's a
ritual.
ritual as
So
well.
so when you say ritual, you mean like non-Christian rituals?
Or
Okay.
even things that are, in my mind, inherently Christian, right? Like there's literally like verses in the Bible that say, write it out, make it plain, right?
Mm-hmm.
In reference to a person's vision. But
Yeah.
then you talk to somebody who's an older Southern Christian about manifestation, and it
Oh,
may
that's
be met
witchcraft.
with some resistance. There you go.
Yeah, that's definitely some witchcraft. But I remember in Sabbath singing that song, "Write the vision, make it plain."
Come on.
I, but it,
And
anyway, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, they did not drill 2 Timothy 2:15 into my head for me to not rightly divide the word of truth, and me to study to be a workman who need not be ashamed doing
Yeah.
so, And so as I got to an age to where my life was looking a little different. Oh, give me. Can we pause 1 second? And I'm about to jump right back in.
So welcome back. Brett had to step away for a second. We're gonna get back into it. So why are you shaking your head? This is
Oh, because
gonna
I didn't
be,
have to step away.
people are gonna
I
see
needed
you.
people to see that.
All right. Anyway. So we were talking about the disconnect and where you noticed the disconnect first.
Yeah.
And we were talking about how Christianity is generally seen as anti-ritual, except for the rituals that are considered Christian.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So the disconnect started for me there, and I got to an age where I like you grow up believing what you're taught to believe. You grow up experiencing based off of the perspective of the people who are raising you, and then once you start to develop your own perspective, the first thing that we do is we question the way we were raised, question why things have to be. That's why
Mm-hmm.
like kids go through rebellious phases. They're really just questioning life and everything around them, right? At least that's my belief. And so, bless you. God bless you, actually.
I muted myself, but
And
thank you.
so, I'm I went through a process and a time to where I just started to feel like if everything in life is so vast and there's more than one name for it, and like math, there's more than one input that can get a specific output,
Mm-hmm.
then why is religion not looked at the same way?
Yeah.
Then
Why is it not all
why can't
inclusive?
why can't there be an all powerful being that just has a bunch of different names for different from different people?
And what's
And it could be
crazy
the
is that
same
in
one that
Christianity,
everybody's
it
talking about.
does. I would just like to say that
Literally
again. In Christianity, God has a billion different names.
a
But then
billion.
someone calls God Allah, and it's like,
It's a
no,
problem.
I don't want to, I don't like that.
And so that's the
Anyway.
other thing that started for me, like happening is I got out of the circles I grew up in, got around people that were of different background, different religions, people whose opinions I respected. So I'm like, if this person could believe something completely different than what I believe, then maybe I don't need to be that attached to what I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I need to reaffirm and refine what I believe.
Yeah.
And so I went on the journey of that, and that's what led me to all these different things and hearing them. And it just made me more sure of what I knew. And it made me question more of like the things that never sat right with me, but I
Mm-hmm.
would just never question because people told me not to.
Yeah. Yeah. I got that a lot too. When I was growing up, I would definitely have the questions, and people would frame it as like doubt. But really, it's just, I don't know, looking for answers. And anyway,
Mm-hmm.
that's not what we're talking about
Yeah,
today,
and
though.
well, no, but to that point, if there's one thing I can say about not just my my specific church I grew up in, but I would say like about like the way my father processes Christianity, it's always through the lens of like, oh, like there is an answer.
Mm-hmm.
Not only will I help you find that answer, but like let's talk about your question. Like your question's a good question.
Yeah.
And so being met with that from the beginning also is probably what led me to be or to down the path that I went. Because it was always like, oh no, like yeah, there are answers out there. You just gotta look for them sometimes.
Yeah.
And it's okay to ask questions.
I did write up an outline, but I feel like
That's cute.
I'm really not sure on how to. I don't know how this question really ties into what we were talking about, but I'm just
It
going to
doesn't
pivot.
need to. Yeah, just pivot.
Sure, I'm going to pivot slightly. So, can you tell me about some instances of astrology, magic, all those things, and how they should work within the framework of Christianity?
Oh my gosh. Like if you there are literally so many ways, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not even gonna take you all through those like deep like why these things are actually not only should they work together, but they're actually way more interconnected than we realize. But we'll just talk about the simple side of it,
So
right?
wait, I do want to know though before we get into it. Do you think that all of these things should be oh, what's the word I'm looking for? It's an I word. Um
Okay.
I want to
I
say
like odd words.
intertwined, but it's not intertwined.
But
Um
they are though.
Integrated. Do you think that these things should be integrated into
Yeah.
Christianity, or that the framework of Christianity should be broken and it should just be Christianity should integrate itself into these things?
I think the latter is more what needs to happen, but only because the way we view Christianity, which is so crazy, because it's like I remember growing up and like every pastor's favorite sermon for a while, or like just favorite like phrase was not to box God in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Don't box in God, don't box
Mm-hmm.
in God. But we look at Christianity through this small box and this small framework. And now back to what your question, and we take out like so much, especially when it comes to like the New Testament. We take out the historic component of
Yeah.
of these things, and then
Oh my
we
gosh, yeah,
we
because
take out the
the way that the Bible is taught to us, the Bible existed in a vacuum and nothing else was
thank
going
you,
on in history when the Bible was
thank you.
happening. It's like two different
And there was
realities.
it would literally be like if there was no social media, right? But
Mm-hmm.
people's tweets were used to create a Bible during Trump's presidency specifically.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is because, like, during the time of the New Testament, like the governing body in like Rome in the great Roman Empire, the way it was set up, there was just so much chaos,
Mm-hmm.
like that was being caused by them and by were they referred to as senators at that time? They may have been, may not have been. My historical accuracy is not 100% on that part. But I do know, and then like you talking about people like Paul, who wrote the majority of the New Testament, was a
Mm-hmm.
revolutionary
Yeah.
and a traveling pastor
Yeah.
who was an incarcerated revolutionary at that. So like half of these things, and then this is the other part is like we pick and choose what to take literally when the Bible is really like this very like abstract, super like I guess super fanciful language
Mm-hmm.
used all throughout. I can't even think of a better term because it's not that. It's like the
No, sorry.
Bible is purposely poetic.
Every time someone says fanciful, though, I think of Disney. Um,
Yeah, and that's what I think of when I think of the Bible. Like when I
yeah.
think of the way it's written, is it's like it's given this Disney-esque painting to go over these topics that were very relevant to the people who were experiencing these situations and who
Yeah,
have
I
and that have
definitely
themes
agree.
that
Especially
can be applied.
the way that it's been presented to us, the way that the Bible stories have been like produced in movies, and like just the way that we see it, it's like this big grand like thing, when in reality it was just the lives of people who were actually existing during that time
Who were
period.
existing during that time period, who were working on religion, day to day, how to have marriages that are successful, how to raise kids. So like you ended up with this book that's really a compilation of everybody's like self-help from the time.
Yeah.
It's like, this is my version of self-help. I'm a best-selling author from Damascus. You should believe me because I have 100,000 people at my church.
Yeah, that's crazy though. I've never thought about it like that, because it really is just a framework on how to live back then and just exist.
Yeah,
And they were people who, I feel like, much like the times that we're in now, where they're unhappy with the things that are going on around them and really just trying to make things work and
that's
change the
it.
systems.
That's it. And you got people who we have multiple stories of, who fought back, right? And they fought back against the systems in place, and they fought back through love and morality, right? Whether it
Mm-hmm.
was sticking to the belief that were passed down to them, or sticking to the fact that like, no, I want to change the beliefs of these people. I want to change the beliefs of this kingdom.
Yeah.
And it's like, when you, I don't know, like when you, in my mind, Christianity should be like very heavily tied to and like intertwined with revolution, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's always like, that's what its history is. And as a Black American in the South, it's hard for me to not say like, oh yeah, that's also its roots in this country. Because the SCLC was very even like,
SELC.
yeah, Southern Leadership Christian Conference, or SCLC, Southern Christian Leadership Conference.
Mm-hmm.
The was very intertwined with SNCC. The anyway, Southern pastors were working with Black Panthers. So
Yeah.
I'm like, I realize I'm talking like, and using all these like Black revolutionary organization like aliases and acronyms. But no,
Mm-hmm.
the point is, Southern Black pastors were very much a part of the Southern Revolution, desegregation.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
Christianity has this history, what are Christians doing today to keep this tradition going? Are we being passive,
Not
or are
ordaining
we out
women
here?
is what they're doing.
That's what we're
Well, not
doing.
Christians, but Adventists specifically. I don't know.
No,
If I could just get
there's
a
more than one denomination.
in
That
Christianity that doesn't ordain women.
that that does not ordain women enough. Now there
Mm.
are not a lot left that just, oh, we don't ordain women and we have that in our rules.
Yeah,
But
but it's like an
if
unspoken.
we,
Okay, so you and I will go off on tangents forever. So I would like to circle
yes,
back, and how does astrology
circle
fit
back.
into this? How does magic fit into this? How does African traditional religion fit into all of this?
Well, one, the stories of the Bible are not nearly as old as we think they are, right? And they do not predate stories of African religion that have the exact same content,
Yeah.
right? Like whether we think about even just Horus Ra, right? And that being the Holy Trinity. But
I'm
the
sorry,
difference
you
is
all that came through was Ra. You said who and Ra?
Isis,
Mm-hmm.
Horus
Mm-hmm.
Ra, right? So that would be like the Trinity, but in African religion.
Mm-hmm.
And so in this one, that we have Mother, Father, and the Son. Versus obviously, where we were taught it's the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit.
Mm-hmm.
But you look at those things, you look at the Ankh and the cross and the similarities. You look
So I
at
think it's interesting that Christianity excluded the mother,
purposely.
the feminine.
There's a
Okay.
reason though,
Yeah.
because of, and then we talk about taking out African traditions and separating that, like for for the people who wrote the translations of the Bible that are most popular for Americans, right? The King James Version, the New International Version. These people were Caucasian male leaders.
Yeah.
Who were
looking to oppress brown people.
Literally in the middle of conquest and trying to erase people's religion while still getting them to like take on their new religion,
so
right?
The thing is, I feel like we all know this, right? So then why is traditional African traditional religion, why is that so rejected by our elders? I feel like now, like our generation, well, since you say we're not the same generation, your generation and my generation and younger generations are more accept. You be anyway.
Unless you go by Pluto.
They're more I do go by Pluto, so we're not the same. They're more accepting though of these things being intertwined. Why do you think that our elders have such a hard time accepting that, or have such resistance to that?
I think it's the same way that we see resistance with our elders, with understanding like gender fluidity, understanding sexual fluidity, understanding that like I'm gonna call it like employment fluidity, to where it's like the only answer is not like, oh, go to school, go to college, find a career path, work it. Like it's there's more than one. So a lot of these things, and that was like, again, for people that go off of the Pluto for the generations, people whose Pluto is in Scorpio, like part of the thing for our generation was literally like breaking down old beliefs, like, and setting new societal norms, and allowing the things that were once in the darkness to come to light, so to say. And so I think I don't even, because it's funny, like I like to use some of my family members as examples, because I think they show a lot of the truth about the older generation, to while also showing a lot of their good side, right? Because people in my family, they be quick to tell you something like, oh nah, I'm open-minded, I don't have no problems. But then as soon as you say something that just is a little bit beyond their comfortability level, they get that full switch. And I think that's what we have with the African traditional religions, is it was called so many negative things. It was portrayed in such a negative way. People have so little information on it.
You gotta really deep dive into who was portraying it negatively. Where did that come from? And when you trace it back, it's like,
think about how long that worked with cannabis, though. Think about how long that worked with cannabis. People literally knew. Matter of fact, I would say, because I was an 8-year-old, and I didn't even really know what propaganda was, but I knew the Reefer Madness movie was propaganda. I'd never thought about smoking weed in my life at 8 years old.
Yeah.
But I knew that there was a movie that they made because people didn't want like the cannabis industry to grow the way it did. And could you imagine the power that people will have, the amount of healing that'll happen if people start to understand, like, oh no, like these African traditional religions, not only are they like good, but they have use for me.
And they're healing me. Oh my gosh.
Come on, that's okay. I take that back. I think that was really what did it for me. Because I've always been like, I'll believe stuff that makes sense, but I have to feel things as well.
Yeah.
And so I started being in different circles, whether we was in a drum circle, or like we was just in a circle just talking with some of the elders, and they get to sharing experiences or whatever. And when you can feel the shift in the energy, the things that I'm just like, oh, I know this is real. And this is familiar. Like, I don't know what this is. I have no clue. I don't know anything about what the processes are and practices are, but I know this feels familiar. I know what you're telling me sounds correct. I know it sounds, and that was it for me. But also too, I feel like in my life to where I was okay with finding out that I didn't know anything or that everything I knew was wrong. And so I was able to open myself up to learn more.
Mm-hmm. And so now, what about astrology? What about magic? Because, you know, the Bible
Mm-hmm.
says stuff about don't go to the astrologers and the psychics and the mediums, and like
I would
really,
love for people to pull up verses for me on those, only because this is where etymology becomes super important. And we
mm-hmm,
think about all the hands, like I was saying, that the Bible's been through. And when we take root words, we start to find out like the way we've translated them is purposely wrong. It
yeah.
don't
Oh
mean
my
that.
gosh.
It
When I
don't mean
found
what y'all
out,
say it means.
I mean, I always knew, but when I found out that and this is controversial, so if you're homophobic, this is your chance to get out of here. But the verse about men lying with men was really about men lying with boys.
It literally was. It was about pedophiles, which I'm sure nobody in their right mind would question why the Bible felt like it needed to mention pedophiles during those times. Sure, we all know why. We know what a certain group of people was people that are held in very high esteem today, what they were doing during those times.
Been doing. But
Mm-hmm,
anyway,
mm-hmm.
so yeah, how does that factor into what the framework of Christianity should look like?
So the astrology one is a deeper piece. That's when you start to break down some of the figurative language of the Bible. You start to realize, like, I mean, even if we just go with a simple one that is not at all connected to things that are going to make people uncomfortable. If we just go with the as above, so below, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we look at what are the heavens to us, right? When we look up from our planet, the heavens are the sky and everything in it. And if we know even our moon has a physical effect on our planet, how can we
A
not
physical
think
effect,
that?
not only on our planet, but on our bodies. That's real.
I was going to go there next, and then if we know that this celestial body could have a physical effect on each and every being on this planet,
Yeah.
what's the stretch in saying that the rest of them do too?
And I think that it's so interesting what you said about not boxing in God earlier. I think that that definitely
Yeah.
ties in because it's like, okay, cool, you can write the Bible, and that existed what, like 3,000 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
That's Is that correct? I don't know if that math
Is
is
it?
right. But it existed a long time ago. How are you going to continue to communicate with your people?
How?
Because while people do say the Bible is living and breathing, I think that there are some things that are useful in the Bible. I don't think that it's, I mean, I think that there are some issues that the Bible does not cover. And I think that astrology is a good way to still communicate with a higher being,
Yeah, because astrology
personally. Or
can
see
be.
try to understand what a higher being is communicating to you,
Yep,
rather.
yep. Because astrology can be communicated for time, and people say, like you said, that the Bible is living and breathing. But the truth is, anything that's not growing is dead. And if we're talking about uh, a written work that has not been adjusted in multiple thousands of years,
I mean,
how
it's been
can we say
adjusted,
that
but has it been amended? Have things been added to
well,
it?
that's what I mean. Like, have we it's been translated and like broken down, but
Mhm.
has it grown any? Has
Yeah.
anything been added to the Bible? Has anything been taken from the Bible? The answer is no. And if you looked at the majority of Christians, they would be like, the question is even sacrilegious, right?
Yeah.
But the truth is, like, how can you expect something to stand the test of time if it's not growing?
Well, yeah.
And that's where astrology comes in my mind, because astrology is the ever changing like measurement tool that we have. Like,
Hmm.
yeah, we have all these measurement tools that are like strict and bound to like certain measurements. And yeah, but then we have astrology, which is like, oh yeah, no, actually we can add 50 more inches to measure this.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, we came up with a whole new measurement to measure this.
And I would also like to say something controversial yet brave, which is the wise men were astrologers. Can we, are
Obviously,
we,
who else is following stars for that far?
who else is following stars? Who else is looking to the stars and being like, oh, this is what's going on? Let's follow that. Who else is doing
And they
that?
were wise men during that time.
And
Like,
then,
how did you
so
get wise? Looking up at the stars,
exactly what I think
studying
is
some stars.
very important that we often miss too is that the rulers, whether or not, I mean, the Bible does frame the rulers as like, unless they were worshiping the true one Christian God, that they were not, what, I can't think of words today, oh my gosh, that they weren't fit for their jobs essentially.
Yeah, yeah.
But they had a court of astrologers, of magicians, of diviners, and of all these other people. Did that just all of a sudden start being useless? Are these
Like,
not also ways to communicate with God?
are they not? Because I don't remember what I do remember, right? I remember some very specific things that was like the mission of Jesus. He was real big on the way people conducted themselves inside of the church, right? It was
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, not gonna be just in here having a bazaar, selling and having a flea market in here. Let's
Yeah,
get that out of here.
yeah.
And he was really big slash hard on religious officials,
Mm-hmm.
the Pharisees, the Sadducees. Every chance he got, he was back and forth with them. You know who he wasn't ever hard on, or who I don't ever remember him having long heated debates with? Magicians, diviners, like those people existed.
Yeah.
And people can't be like, here's the other thing, right? Like Christians love to use the fact that Jesus was a man of the people, right? To like be like, oh yeah, no, he hung out with everybody. Yeah, yeah. And guess who they were good? Guess who they named as bad people? Tax collectors, lawyers, doctors. Jesus, they ain't say nothing about, oh yeah, Jesus out there with the magic practicing folks and the witches. Because Jesus said they need love too.
Yeah.
But Jesus was like, no. Those people are close to love. They have love. That's why they're out here practicing this way. He said, I'm about to get on you people who think you're fit for society and these big contribution making folks. You're not. Let me tell you what you actually are. You are a camel trying to go through the eye of a needle. It's not gonna happen, G.
It's not gonna happen. It's not gonna
that was
happen.
and see that's what I want to continue. I want to continue proletariat Jesus.
Okay.
Socialist
Can
Jesus.
you can you elaborate on
Yeah,
proletariat
proletariat is the
Jesus?
working class. Is the
Uh-huh.
working class. And so I want to be working class Jesus, like to where it's like, yeah, like for sure, like let's do this mutual aid. Let's feed people. Let's give people free access to things that they would usually have to pay for, right?
Yeah.
Let's do that. But also too, let's keep that other class on their toes. Let's let's keep them accountable.
Yeah.
That's how in my mind, that's how I want to live.
So, okay, to kind of sort of wrap it up, because Zoom is like, you only have a certain amount of
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
Two things. Is it worth even trying to integrate Christianity into these practices, trying to integrate these practices into Christianity? If it is, what would that look like? And if it's not, I mean, where do we go from here?
So I have answers for all three of those. I think the first answer is going to be everybody's least favorite. The truth is, That's a very personal and specific question to your settings, right? Like, do you want to work Christianity's teachings into the rest of your life and your teachings? Does that work for you? Only you can answer that. You know how
Yeah.
you feel about Christianity. You know how you feel about the Bible. And you know how you feel that it impacts your life. Because my biggest thing, and this is for people with all religions, because for all diets, for any workout plan or martial arts you want to pick up. Doesn't matter which one you do, it matters about which one works for you and which
Mm-hmm.
one is going to lead you to being the best you.
Yeah, because you're
And
the only one who
so,
has to live with that too.
yep. And so I say that to say, I think the biggest way to like show these practices or like to inhibit it is to open up like the box in your mind of your definition, and not just for Christianity, but for any religion that you may be interested in learning, and go in empty box. Like take out all the things you think you know, the things you perceive about Christians or Christianity or religions or religious people, and you go into it, and then once you leave, you find out that you have in your box everything that works for you, and you don't have anything that doesn't.
Yeah.
As long as you're going in there like, okay, what can I gain from this? Versus like, well, let me tell them how they're wrong. Or let me see if they know anything useful.
Yeah. So, I mean, so for you personally, do you find value in integrating the two?
Uh, there is value in integrating the way. For me, the value is knowing where my message is being received. So like the integration is valuable to people who are like me. Well, if I'm not talking to somebody who's like me, it's not valuable at all. I'm just being serious. Like,
Yeah.
sometimes I talk to people and it's like, I can be like, I can tell them like all the reasons why these things are similar, but they only care about what's different.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, I think the integration looks like continuing to keep myself open and feeling like, and not feeling like I know everything I need to know.
Mm-hmm. Because if something isn't growing, it's dead.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your time today.
Thank you for
um,
yours.
do
Got
you want to
things
shout
set
out
up.
your socials? Do you have anything going on?
I
What you
have
want
lots of
to?
things going on. My socials are just BRTTYLR on all the socials.
Okay. Um, anything that you want to talk about that's going on, or are you keeping it close to the vest? I don't know when I'm gonna air this, so.
Follow me for music, and if you want to follow somebody who only posts when they have something to promote.
Okay, I mean, and with that, you can follow me as well at Black Spirituality Pod on Instagram. You can follow us on Spotify, SoundCloud, and Apple Podcasts at the Black Spirituality Podcast. You can follow my personal page at it's not at blogging period vegan. Nope, that's not right either. It's
Just
at
VEG.
blogging period VEG. I've changed my ats a lot. And yeah, I think that's gonna be it for us. We're gonna get out of here. Thank you guys so much for listening, and I'll catch you on the next one. Bye.